everyone, James here, and today we're going to have an entry-level talk about RV air conditioners. Now this is going to be aimed mainly at new RVers, people just getting into RVing, so we're going to spend a little time on how RV air conditioning can be a bit different from your home AC system. But you know me, I'll probably wander off script and try to explain things, but I will try to refrain from using words like adiabatic, but no promises. Okay, this video is brought to you by our friends at Winnebago RVs. So we're going to illustrate our examples with models from Winnebago's motorhomes and travel trailers. So thank you to Winnebago, and let's get rolling. Now, the very first thing you need to know about RV air conditioning, especially if you're new, is that your air conditioner requires power to run. Now that's not surprising, but what might be surprising is that the power to run your RV's air conditioner is not necessarily always available. This has to do with the fact that your RV has multiple electrical systems. Now, I'm not going to cover all that here because we made a whole other video on that, so please check that out if you want more electrical knowledge. But you do need to be aware that most RV air conditioners in North America, here in 2024, are 120 volt AC appliances. And unlike your home, your RV might not always have 120 volt AC power available. So in practical terms, for most people, this means you will either need to be A, plugged into shore power, B, running a generator, or C, running a large inverter off of battery power in order to have the power to run your air conditioner. So if you try to fire up the air conditioner and you get nothing but sweatier, that's probably the first thing you should check. Now, I said most RV air conditioners are 120 volt AC appliances, but certainly not all of them are. We're seeing more and more DC powered air conditioners these days. These are air conditioners that, electrically speaking, can run directly off your RV's batteries. Now, in engineering, just like life, nothing comes for free, and a DC-powered air conditioner is not magic. It's going to require some, and probably actually quite a bit, of power to run. But you wouldn't at least have to be plugged into a generator or, shore power in order to do so. You would need quite a bit of battery power, though. So if you're contemplating a DC air conditioner, that's not a typical beginner topic, so I'm going to assume you've got that covered on your own, and we're just going to move on. Okay, now, regardless of how your RV air conditioner gets its power, it will have some kind of rated capacity, like how much cooling is it capable of doing. And if you're just an RVer who wants to stay comfortable in the heat, that's probably the most important thing, right? Sizing the air conditioner. So let's get into that. So for the most part, at least here in North America, RV air conditioners are sized in units of BTUs per hour. What the heck does that mean? Well, BTU stands for British Thermal Unit. It's a unit of heat. It's kind of a quaint, older unit, and it's the amount of heat required to raise 1 pound of water 1 degree Fahrenheit at a temperature of about 39 degrees. BTUs per hour are even more terrible units, like 13.6 foot candle furlongs per fortnight, or, okay, I just made that up. But seriously, BTUs per hour is a measure of, in this case, how much heat can the air conditioner move in an hour. Now, a typical North American RV air conditioner will have a capacity of somewhere between 11,000 to 15,000 BTUs per hour for a single unit. Smaller RVs can get by with something on the lower end, and larger RVs obviously need more. But heat is just a kind of energy, so you could see air conditioner capacity stated in other units. For example, you might also see, particularly if you look at products from Europe, air conditioner capacities quoted in watts, and that's perfectly legitimate. You can convert from watts to BTUs per hour pretty easily. 1 watt equals about 3.41 BTUs per hour. And once you know that, you can compare apples to apples. So let's look at an example. This RV air conditioner is a 12 volt air conditioner. And if you dig into the specifications, you'll learn that it has a capacity of 1700 watts. Fantastic. What does that mean? Well, you multiply 1700 by 3.41 and you get 5,797 BTUs per hour. To put that in perspective, it's only about half the cooling power of the lowest end air conditioner you might ever find in a North American RV. So when you see air conditioning units like this quoted in watts, they're typically European. So here's the thing about Europe. They have different ideas about air conditioning than we do. What they call air conditioning, you or I might call slightly less sweaty. This shouldn't be surprising because they also have different ideas about ice in my drink and cold beer too. So to be completely fair to our European friends though, they think we're all crazy and that we keep our houses as cold as igloos. So the short version of all that is this. When you see an air conditioner rated in watts, just be aware that number one, they're probably from Europe. Number two, you'll probably need to do some math in order to be able to compare. And number three, when you do, it's probably going to compare unfavorably to the air conditioners we tend to get over here. Let's look at another example. The air conditioner in our Echo has a 13,500 BTU per hour capacity. So let's divide that by 3.41 and you'll get 3,959 watts. In European terms, let's just call that a 4,000 watt air conditioner. Now, mathematically inclined among you might be saying, hey, wait a minute. How the heck are you going to run a 4,000 watt air conditioner from a 2,000 watt inverter or a 2,800 watt generator? That doesn't add up. And you're right, it doesn't add up. Until you understand that air conditioners don't create cold, they move heat. Think about that for a second. If you move heat, something gets cold, but something else is going to get hot. This makes an air conditioner different from something like an electric space heater. A space heater takes electrical energy and just straight up converts it into heat, right? An air conditioner doesn't do that. It takes the heat that's in your living space and moves it outside. That's why there's an inside part and an outside part. It's moving heat from inside to outside. And if you hang around the outside part, it's blowing warm air. So now this gets to be kind of an abstract concept. So if you don't totally internalize it, that's okay. But the energy required to just move heat from A to B is less than the amount of heat that you move. There's a multiplier in there, and we'll get back to efficiency in a bit. Now, the fact that both the electrical input to the air conditioner and the amount of heat it moves can be expressed in watts doesn't help things. So this is one case where the antique BTU per hour units actually helps you mentally keep the two concepts separate. So if you like analogies, the best analogy I can come up with, and this is far from perfect, but is this. Consider my truck. My truck weighs about 4,000 pounds, give or take. Now, sure, I work out a little, but there's no way I can generate enough pounds force to lift my truck. But if you put it in neutral, I can move it, because the pounds of force it takes for me to move a 4,000 pound truck is not 4,000 pounds. The same thing goes for heat. It's more efficient to just move heat than it is to generate it outright from another form of energy. And get ready for a light bulb moment. Now you know why you'll always hear that heat pumps are more efficient than other types of traditional heaters. Because heat pumps, as the name implies, just move the heat around, and that requires less energy than generating it. All right, well, now that I've mentioned heat pumps, let's talk about some heating options available with RV air conditioners. And the good news is that, yes, heat pumps are available. And since heat pumps are kind of just air conditioners running backwards, that makes a little sense, right? So for example, this Winnebago View 24T has a GE air conditioner that is a heat pump model. Not all RV air conditioners can work as heat pumps, but for those that can, it's a great option for heating your coach while plugged into shore power. They'll heat your coach with electricity, and that way you won't use up any of your propane or any other kind of fuel you may have had. Now, when they're working as a heat pump, they're moving heat from the outside to the inside. And as that outside gets colder and colder, that gets harder and harder to do. So you can't use a heat pump in like Arctic conditions, and most RVs are going to include a regular furnace as well for that kind of heating. You might also see or hear of something called a heat strip for your RV air conditioner. These are basically just old school resistance heaters, kind of like a mini space heater up in your AC unit. This would be another option for heating your RV with electricity while you're plugged in to shore power. The heat strips, often they're just like an add-on for an RV air conditioner. If your air conditioner didn't come with one, you may be able to find them aftermarket and just add it yourself. They come in capacities of up to 1,500 watts or so, but since we're talking about air conditioners, let's call that 5,600 BTUs per hour of heat instead of 1,500 watts. Just be aware that the heat strips don't somehow magically convert your air conditioner into a heat pump. They're simple resistance heaters, so they're not going to be as efficient as a heat pump. But then on the other hand, they're not going to stop working when it gets really, really cold outside. So how do they size air conditioners for an RV? It's a bit different from a home air conditioner. In a home, you can have larger or smaller AC units depending on the size of the home. So like an apartment may have a smaller AC unit, like this one. And a larger home may have a larger AC unit, like this one. But you won't see that in RVdom, because when it comes to RV air conditioners, 90% of them are all kind of one size. They're all about 80 pounds and they fit into a 14-inch square opening in the roof. So if an RV needs more cooling capacity, they'll just start adding more of them. So on smaller RVs, you'll probably see one air conditioning unit. Like on this Winnebago Rebel, that is a 13,500 BTU per hour unit. But as the RVs get larger, they might move to 2 air conditioning units, like this Winnebago Voyage. And on that one, there's a 15,000 BTU per hour unit standard, and you can get an additional 13,500 BTU unit in the bedroom area. When the RVs get really large, like on this Winnebago Tour, you might see 3 air conditioners. Now, the Tour is out of production now, but I believe those are 3 Mach 8 13,500 BTU per hour heat pumps on the roof. One last point about sizing. Just like a home, a large, poorly insulated living space is going to take more power to keep comfortable. So you don't have to think about this too much. This is the good news, right? Because this kind of sizing is done by the manufacturer, and they usually get it right. If you're buying new, they'll typically just offer the correct size and number of air conditioners to keep the space comfortable. But if you're replacing your AC unit or doing a refit of some sort, you might have the opportunity to size up or down. So if your RV doesn't get cold enough, you could say replace a 13,500 BTU per hour unit with a 15,000 BTU per hour unit. But generally speaking, the RV is going to come with what it needs. That sizing exercise is done by the manufacturer. Okay, so now let's talk about brands. The RV manufacturers like Winnebago, they don't generally make their own air conditioners. They source them from vendors. So you'll see, even within the same company, or sometimes even within the same model, there may be different makes and models of air conditioners installed. Winnebago, for example, will install air conditioners from Coleman Mach, like we see here on the Revel. Or Dometic, that's another big name in this space, like we're seeing here on this Mini Towable. They install air conditioners from GE, like we have on our own Winnebago Echo, and they also install air conditioners from Truma, like you'll see here on this View 24T. Now, I mentioned the 24T previously, and if you're taking notes, you'll have noticed that that's 2 different types of air conditioners I've mentioned on the same View 24T. And that's correct. As of today, on the specifications page, you'll find there's a 15,000 BTU per hour heat pump, standard, and there's an optional upgrade to a Truma. Well, what would make one air conditioner an upgrade over another? 2 things come to mind: efficiency and sound. Let's talk about efficiency first. You know from earlier that an air conditioner can move more heat than what its input power is. This is how you can run a 13,500 BTU per hour air conditioner for 1,500 watts or less, right? Well, how much less depends on an efficiency rating. And you'll sometimes see this listed in the specifications as an EER, Energy Efficiency Ratio. Now, if you go to RV air conditioner websites, you'll find that not everybody publishes that, but GE, for example, does. And for the 15,000 BTU per hour heat pump model, they publish a cooling energy efficiency ratio of 6.1 BTUs per hour per watt. That means for every watt of power you put in, you can expect up to 6.1 BTUs per hour of heat to be moved out of your RV. Now, Truma doesn't publish the same specification, but working backwards from the ones they do provide, I came up with an EER of more than 9, which would make it 50% more efficient than the GE. And there are other RV air conditioners that do publish efficiency ratios of more than 9, so even though it's not official, it seems like it might be legit. Now, there's a lot of tinkering they can do with these specifications, like at what temperature are they testing? Because it's easier to move heat outside if it's not already 120 degrees outside, right? What's the humidity in the test chamber? Things like that. Those all affect the results. But in spite of that, generally speaking, I would expect the Truma to consume less electrical power to do the same amount of cooling. So in that respect, I would indeed call it an upgrade. So let's say you were planning to do a lot of boondocking away from electrical hookups. You might be running your air conditioner off of battery power, like we do. In that case, the more efficient air conditioner starts to make a lot more sense, right? So that's one. The other reason an air conditioner might be an upgrade over another has to do with noise. And if you hang around any RV forum for very long, you'll come across someone complaining that their air conditioner is just too loud. So if one air conditioner is quieter than another, that might be a feature that you'd consider paying a premium for. Now, since I am a veteran of what feels like about 6 RV air conditioner replacements, some of which were more traumatic than others, I can absolutely tell you that some RV air conditioners are just quieter than others, and they will each have their own distinctive tonal qualities. So if the noise from an air conditioner is a big deal for you, I'd encourage you to head to a dealer and listen to some of them, because the noise factor, it's somewhat dependent on the make and model of the air conditioner, but not 100%. The noise from your air conditioner is also highly dependent on how it is installed. And rooftop RV air conditioners are mainly installed in two ways, ducted or non-ducted. So let's talk about non-ducted first. In these sorts of installations, the air moves in and out of the AC unit through a box, and that's typically located directly underneath the air conditioner unit itself. That box is called an air distribution box, or ADB, but they don't really usually look like boxes. And before we go any further, this is a good point to either remind you or let you know, if you didn't know already, that RV air conditioners don't, and indeed they shouldn't, pull air into your RV from the outside. They recirculate. They suck air from inside the living space, cool it, and then return it back to the living space. When they're working well, a typical RV air conditioner will cool the air about 20 degrees from intake to output. You might hear that called delta T. That's how your air conditioner can maintain a temperature of 72 degrees on a 100-degree day. It keeps cooling the same air over and over, 20 degrees at a time, until it gets comfortable. Anyway, the big takeaway from that is that your RV air conditioner will have both an intake, also called the return air, and an exhaust, the cold air output. And if you have a non-ducted air conditioner, both of those things happen right in the ADB. Now, here's a Winnebago Travato with a non-ducted air conditioner. The return air, or the intake, comes in on the sides, and you can see those two large slatted openings with filters behind them. And by the way, that's why you have a filter, to keep stuff like pet hair out of your air conditioner. The cooled air comes out the front and back, as well as from those directional vents in the middle there. Now, contrast that with the ducted air conditioning in this Winnebago Voyage. There's the air return with the filter, but then a series of ducts run through the ceiling with outlets all around the RV. That does a couple things. First, it helps to more evenly distribute the chilled air throughout the RV, so you get more even cooling, but this can also help with noise. So if you've ever opened a car window while driving down the interstate, you know rushing air can be pretty loud, right? Well, the same thing applies to air rushing in and out of your RV's air conditioner. Everyone's going to have their own opinion on noise, but it's my opinion that ducted air conditioning installations, like in our Echo or in this Winnebago View, they tend to be a bit quieter, particularly if the ducting is well thought out. But even if you don't think they're quieter overall, one big thing the ducted system does is that it can relocate some of the noise to a different place. So you don't have 100% of both the intake noise and exhaust noise concentrated in just one place. Ducting does allow for quieter locations within the RV. And if you sometimes have to get on conference calls while you're on the road, like I do, then you'll appreciate there being quieter places in the RV to do that. But ducting does require space inside the roof of your RV for ducts and vents, so you won't typically see it in camper vans, for example, because there you've got like an automotive metal roof with ribs across it and not a lot of opportunity or space to run ducting. So RVs like the Revel and Travato, those will generally use a non-ducted air conditioner. There's a lot more that goes into air conditioner noise, like are there 1 or 2 fans in the roof unit? Are those fans axial, or are they like squirrel cage centrifugal fans? What sort of turbulence and right angles are in the air path, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We've barely scratched the surface on that. But the big takeaway here is that yes, some of the noise is due to the make and model of the air conditioner, but some of it has to do with how and where it's installed. Okay. One final thing to be aware of if you're new to RV air conditioners are the controls. How do you control the air conditioner? Turn it on, turn it off, set the temperature, that kind of thing. At home, there's usually a thermostat on the wall somewhere, but that may not be the case in an RV. So first, let's talk about air conditioners with an air distribution box. These are the non-ducted air conditioners. Oftentimes with these, the controls are directly on the ADB itself, right? That interior box. So here in this Winnebago Revel, you can see the controls right there on the box, and they're pretty simple. Temp up, temp down, and a button to cycle through some different modes. High, low, fan, etc., what have you. The one hang-up I have with this kind of control setup has to do with a learning curve of sorts. What I mean here is that the warm air being sucked in, the cold air blowing out, and the thermostat, they're all right there, inches away from each other. So the air conditioner might be set at 72 degrees, but it could actually be like 84 degrees in the bathroom. You'll just need to eventually figure out what number on the thermostat corresponds to what kind of comfort in your living space. And once you learn that, you'll just have a feel for it and you won't need to worry about it anymore. Now, other controls. You might actually find a wall-mounted thermostat like we see here in this Winnebago Echo. Those won't surprise you, and you already know how to work those. No big deal there. But now if the RV comes with more than one air conditioner, you might find more than one wall-mounted thermostat, like we're seeing here in the Voyage. Once you discover all of them, and then once you figure out which thermostat controls which air conditioner, those are not going to surprise you either. You might find the controls for the air conditioner are combined with some other control panel. We see that here in this Winnebago Echo, the Sprinter Echo, where the air conditioner controls are part of the same panel that has the tank monitors and the generator controls. If your coach has multiple Truma appliances, you might find the controls for all of them combined into one Truma panel. But again, regardless of how they're set up, once you find it, the operation is usually pretty simple. And then finally, your air conditioner might have its controls, what I'll call over-the-top integrated, as we can see here on the Winnebago Connect panel in the view. The Winnebago Connect system is kind of nudging the RV closer and closer to that smart home concept. But even if you don't care too much about turning on your air conditioner with your phone, which you can do, the Winnebago Connect integration does allow for some pretty cool features you couldn't get otherwise. Here's an example. Say it's a reasonably mild day and you're going out on a hike, but you're leaving your pet behind in the RV. It's probably mild enough that you don't need the air conditioning, but better safe than sorry, right? Well, rather than run your AC all day, with Winnebago Connect, you can have the system try to keep the RV below a temperature by using the ceiling fans. But then if the temperature rises more than those ceiling fans can keep up with, it'll close the fans and turn on the air conditioning. And unless everything is integrated like it is with Winnebago Connect, you just can't do that easily any other way. Okay, that's gonna about do it for this entry-level talk on RV air conditioners. The air conditioner is just one thing you need to consider when you're shopping for an RV, but if you live in the desert, like we do, it can be a really important one. Now, if you have any comments or questions, there will be a post over on thefitRV.com that I'll link to in the description down below. You can sound off there, and I'll do my best to get you an answer. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.